And we're just like scratching the surface on how we can actually build better architectures that we can plug it in our platform and that we can sleep freely that night because we know that it's not going to generate some
Yep.
stupid stuff.
For all of you out there listening, if you are in the market for any kind of software development needs, check out Studio NoCode. It's our agency that's built on Bubble experts with nearly a decade of experience building all kinds of Bubble apps. Marketplace, social network, payroll company, catering business, data room, ad tech, legal tech. We got a little bit of everything. We've seen it all, and that helps us translate all of our knowledge into your app to build the best product for your customers. We built it professionally, we built it to be secure, and we built it to scale. And we're going to do all these things on time and on budget. So if you are looking for help getting off the ground, getting something to market, or anything in between, give us a call or an email or a carrier pigeon or whatever you want. Studio-nocode.com. We'll probably be there.
Welcome back to This Week in No Code. I'm your host, JJ Englert, here with my co-host, David Pal. And David, where in the world are you this week?
I am calling from Central Jersey today. East Coast, what?
We have a great show for you this week in No Code. It has been a slate of AI news. And so we are going to hit the ground running for you with a whole slate of that news. And then we're also going to bring in an expert in residence, you could say, Anita, another No Code creator, programmer, developer, founder, and then also is currently working at an AI company, Vellum, and is the author of the Prompt, an AI newsletter, to talk about AI, what she's seeing on her side, not only in OpenAI, but also cool new tools, all that kind of stuff. So that's going to be later in the show for that interview. But otherwise, David, why don't you get us started with the No Code news of the week?
This has been a news-filled week. Lots to talk about. Of course, we're going to have to start with OpenAI and their spring update. Boy,
They did it again.
They are launching like crazy. Of course, they're upstaging Google, trying to hop in first.
Yeah. That
Their
little
news-
tweet from Sam, hey, we'll go live Monday or whatever. I'm like, that's all it takes.
Yeah, exactly. He's just like, yeah, we're going to do this.
Yep.
They release GPT-4 Omni. That's what that little O stands for. You may have seen it.
Yep.
GPT-4 Omni. It is supposed to just make everything, it has, from what I've seen, faster and cheaper. Right? They've added, it's like compounding impact, right? They're just making everything so crazy. They're adding some visuals, audio, text, multimodal inputs here. All of this is coming in real time. You see some of these demos have been absolutely wild. JJ, what has been your favorite demo so far?
Yeah, the one where they asked the AI to tell a story and then to switch the voices that they were, and then to eventually sing, and then the actual quality of the singing that they were able, the AI, whatever was able to do, was very, very impressive. I didn't realize, like, it's coming fast. Like, this was a huge update. It is so much faster. It is so much better in so many different ways, and it's cheaper too. I know things are moving fast, but like, this is very, very fast. Like, immediately when I saw this, I was like, oh my God, like, robots are just about here. Like, Her, the movie, this is like a real thing now. I want to go watch that again.
Yeah, really interesting. I mean, they are making such big steps. I have no idea if the next step is just as big as this one, or if like we get 80% closer every time. 80% is a little bit smaller. I have no idea. It just seems like this keeps going. Let's really hope I can live off my savings forever because I'm going to jobs.
I will say that I'm starting to feel a little desensitized to it because it's coming so much and so frequent. And it's kind of a weird feeling because it's these huge leaps in mankind, really, this technology. And yet it's happening so frequently and so often that it doesn't feel like it is as big as what's really happening. And so it's kind of this weird feeling of just like, this is really, really big stuff, like consumer applications that have never been available to us like this before is now available to the mass audience around the entire world. They can do things that we could only dreamed of, but it was just like another update of all the updates kind of thing.
Yeah, I remember the early days of like Chat GPT and those kinds of things. Like, oh, I have to build something. I have to go build something. And then, the hype was a little bit bigger than being able to build something as production ready as they said you, right? At
Yeah.
least out of the box, right? I'm sure.
Yeah.
And then so I was like maybe I'm not gonna build. I don't know. This is like a little underwhelming still. If I'm just like, for lack of a better term, building some AI wrapper.
Yeah.
And then we went through this like period of I'm not touching AI much. I'm just kind of learning about it, talking about it. And I don't know, after this last update, I'm back to the like, I need to be building something with AI. Like I just need to be touching this stuff and getting my hands dirty and more than I have been, and not less anymore.
I feel the same way. I feel like if I'm not building with AI right now, like I'm missing out. And I'm there was a couple times in life where it's just like when I got introduced to Bitcoin like really early, like 2009, 2010. And like I had the opportunity to like get involved with it then, and I'm just like, it's a fad, not. And then there was like several other things in life where it's like I got introduced to something really early, and it's like this isn't gonna be, and I've lived through enough of those now. It's where I feel like it's kind of like this in AI now, and like I want to take advantage of it in that moment now.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. I think there's part of me that like this. There's definitely a lot of hype at the moment, right? We are in a little bit of a hype bubble. Although on the other side of the bubble, I think there's gonna be a lot more real improvement than like in the Bitcoin bubble. Lots of hype, boom and bust, like over and over. I think we will see that, but upward trajectory, always up higher. I think there's lots to be built, and I think there's definitely that. I always want to be building, so like I don't know what I don't have a good idea of what to build.
Yeah.
I just want to build something.
And I think the big thing is like my local city, one of the Chamber of Commerce, the Chamber of Commerce in my local city reached out to me. They're like, listen, we don't know what AI is, but like, can you teach us, because we want to be on board, right? Like we know that it's not all fluff. How can you help our local entrepreneurs with this, right? And like, I feel like that's like a good little indicator or sign of like, hey, I live in a smaller city. A Chamber of Commerce is like starting to noticing AI, like that it's starting to pick up more mainstream kind of thing. And people are like seeing like, all right, it's not all fluff. It keeps coming up. There's crazy hype. How can we actually leverage this for our business now?
Yeah, I think that's probably true. The thought that had been bouncing around my head for the past couple days is like you look on Twitter, like in our little sphere of Twitter, everyone's doing all these crazy things, and I think this was kicked off by the acquisition of Support Shepherd, which is now called Somewhere. I don't know if you saw that. Nick Huber bought Support Shepherd. See, exactly. This is exactly my point. I knew. In my head, seems like old news. In your head, you're like, right information.
Yep.
AI is the same way outside of Twitter.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yes, your Chamber of Commerce is interested in it, but like 80% of the world still has no idea what AI is.
Yeah.
More than 80%.
I agree with that.
Right? And when we're reading our Twitter feed, we're like, everything's been done, everyone's doing it, I'm too late.
Yeah.
But the rest of the world has not started.
Yeah. Yeah, I went on a podcast the other day and they're like, hey, just give us like 60 seconds of advice for entrepreneurs. And my whole pitch was like, hey, you don't have to, if you want to build software, you don't need code anymore. You could do it with no code. And I was like, that's probably not everyone. He's like, we've actually never heard that before. Like, what do you mean? Can you tell us more about what these no code tools can do? I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had this same conversation with a buddy in Hampton, which is the group of founders and entrepreneurs that have reached some level of some metric.
Success.
Yeah. Some success. Yeah. And I've been talking about NoCode to him for a very long time. I actually knew him from before Hampton, my last company. So I've known him for 7 or 8 years. So he's been building with Bubble for a very long time.
Yeah.
He finally asked me, so like I keep hearing no code. Like, what can you actually build with it? And I
Yeah.
was like, anything.
Yeah.
And he had no idea. Like, he's heard it. He knew the term, but he
Yeah.
didn't know the term. You
Yeah.
know?
I know. I went to a family party, I think last month, and 2 people there just saw my LinkedIn, and one was in the movie industry, and there's like in the VFX and whatnot. And they're like, "Hey, we got to build this platform for all of our assets and project management, and all this kind of stuff. Like, could that be built with Bubble?" I'm like, "Yeah, no problem." And he's like, and then another person was like, "Hey, we create furniture, and we need to create kind of like a CRM for our projects, like a portal and all this kind of stuff with like custom pricing. Can that be done in Bubble?" I was like, "Yeah, of course." And they're like,
Yeah.
and then they both followed me around the rest of the event, like trying to learn more
I know.
about what is this magic of no code and what can be
Yeah.
done. I'm just like, guys, like there's OpenAI, there's APIs you can hit and all this kind of stuff. It's just like,
And if
so we're
you
early.
out there
We're
listening
early.
are like JJ's family, contact us at Studio No Code.
There's a lot of examples of what GP4o can do: teaching math, customer service, making meetings easier, involvement in meetings, assisting blind people, generating 3D objects, multi-input acceptance, enhanced speed and cost efficiencies across the board. It's 2x faster, 50% cheaper. There's just
Also, in the language side, it's even better.
for
Like
translation, right?
Yeah, translate things and do things in different languages needed more tokens, and so everything was more expensive. They've made specific languages even cheaper, so now it becomes even more accessible. Right, crazy, and the speed is fast. Like everything is just, oh my.
So
We'll
the next day after, Google strikes back with their own conference. And the thing that really resonates through my mind of Google's conference is that guy on stage, that singer just going ham. You know, whatever he was doing. There was a lot of innovations that came out of that conference, but that visual is really sticking in my head for those that don't know. Harrison, maybe you could throw that on the video side of this where people can just see that visual of this singer so it doesn't leave your head either. But anyways, they introduced Project Astra, which is a cutting-edge AI agent designed to act as an intelligent system with capabilities such as reasoning, planning, extensive memory. The project represents Google's vision for a universal AI assistant that could integrate seamlessly into daily life, potentially through devices like augmented reality and much more. They hope that these agents can do actions for you on your own behalf. So maybe if you need to return something, you could take a picture and that agent will go through the whole return process and do that for you. Laborious tasks like this, teams of agents can work together and have that done for you. Not the first of its kind. We've had some other players already kind of doing this, but it seems like another take on that, more mainstream take on that, more powerful take on that as well. They also updated Gemini. They have now 2 million token window, which I don't even know how much that is. Like, was it like
books and books and books,
like Harry Potter size books, like
I
10
think
times
I think it's
over?
like all of the Harry Potter books, isn't it? Isn't it like some crazy? I don't know the number. That may be an incorrection.
It's a really, really big one. And then they also introduced an Imagen 3 model, I believe it's called, and a VO model, a new generative video model that allows users to create videos from a combination of text, image, and video prompts. So that was incredible. One other thing that really sticks with me is the demo of when they were holding up their phone and it was just kind of like a live video and showing walking around the office. And it was just like, hey, point to a thing that can make noise. And it would recognize the speaker, specifically a part of the speaker. And then it pointed to code. Tell me what that code is doing. And then it pointed, and then it went all around the desk and it was just like, hey, where did I leave my glasses?
That
And
was
then
the most impressive part.
That was the most impressive part. And it reminded them where they left the glass. And then I'm just like, whoa. When it did that, I was just like, so it's actually memorizing all of this stuff. Like, we've gotten that far with this technology. It's incredible. And then I think they put on the glasses to also continue to communicate with the model in that way, in that interactive way. And it felt like having a real assistant in your head giving you superpowers in a glasses like form.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they're doing everything they do. Like they're just touching all of their apps. Everything's
Yeah.
gonna have a AI. They're undercutting OpenAI on price. Like they still have this like huge behemoth of cash cow, right? Like
Yeah.
Google, and so they are catching up. Like they are moving at an incredible pace. They definitely have to be more diligent on like screw ups, right? Like
Yeah.
it's a bigger problem for them than OpenAI, the new guy.
Yeah, you know what it kind of feels like is like, when Microsoft has like the pro apps, or what is it? What is it? Power apps, right?
Power
And
apps.
it's just like they have such a big footprint. Like many people in no code don't even know what Power Apps is, but yet it's like 12 times the size of all the rest of the no code industry. Like it's just like a player like Google can just integrate into so many businesses so quickly that OpenAI doesn't have those relationships with already. And so OpenAI might have the buzz, but Google is just already penetrated and they can already just release and ship to millions of businesses around the world and
Yep.
enterprises. And it's just like maybe it's not as loud, it doesn't have as much buzz, but it's already there, it's penetrating well.
Yeah, I mean, they said like, they're trying to keep up with Perplexity, the other AI tool. And yeah, we're just gonna roll out to 100 million users this week. Right? Just like casually drop
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I
Meanwhile,
mean,
we're all worried about rolling out to 100 users this week.
yeah, exactly. And like, they operate at such scale, so it's a problem, but in the AI world where feedback matters, it can be really helpful. Uh, they have a real business model already, so they're like growing on that side
Yeah,
as well. They're even talking about like, integrating it directly into phones in Android so they can listen to the call and tell you when it's likely a scam, right? Because they
interesting.
can just hear
Yeah,
things like, oh, this is what's going
yeah.
on.
We
It's pretty cool. Uh,
I'm doing this. I host at Softer every month. I host an expert call with our experts, and when the call starts, there's about 20 to 30 AI bots that join the call on behalf of their owner, representative kind
yeah,
of thing
yeah,
to
the
take the
owner.
notes and everything. And then I'm just kind of sitting in a room with like a bunch of bots, and it's just like, but it does make you feel like
Wait,
there
there
is a
aren't
world
people there
where
as well?
there are, they come
Oh,
in, but like there's more bots than people.
yeah,
And it does make you feel like in a world where it's just like, yeah, I'm just gonna send my bot to go like meet up with you. You guys can have the intro call, and if you get along, we'll actually reserve a call to actually make time for it. Or like go on a date. Our AI bot is gonna date with your AI bot, and there's matches there, then we will actually go on a date. Like all this kind of stuff seems crazy, but like if you have an AI bot that you train to represent you, you send it to your meetings that you have, and maybe real time, it's like, hey, you need to make a decision, and it pings you a message. What decision do you want to make? And then they respond back, and like there's some crazy stuff that can be
yeah,
done with all the technology that is out now, and will continue to be out in the next 6 months.
yeah. I can't wait to see what the next year looks like. All
Well,
right, should we move on to some news? Final pieces of news, or
I,
feeling?
yeah. Why don't we, when we hit one last news topic, and then we'll bring in our guest for the day. What's going on with David Sachs now, David?
All right, so David Sachs, All In podcast host, one of them, who had a tirade
Many things.
about
Yeah.
no, that's his platform.
Yeah.
Right, complain about stuff. Him and his company, they have launched a new product called Glue, an AI-driven version of Slack. Right, they're basically taking Slack, making it easier to consume, get out of channel fatigue. Right, like if you're in a big company, you have hundreds of people in your Slack. They're all over these channels. You arrive in Slack, all of the things light up. You're like, well, how can I follow along with all this? Right. And so they are taking a stab at that, understand what's going on. And so they've launched a Slack competitor. It's really interesting to think they did this after they talked about how dumb it is for people to pay monthly fees for software, and they want everyone to host everything. They are undercutting Slack's price,
Just by a bit,
and so they're
not much.
I think it's
$7
$7
per
a month
month.
or something.
Yeah, per employee.
Fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. Slack's not perfect. I understand the point here is like there was a lot of channels. How do you keep up with all of those conversations? I'm interested to see the take on it. I do think AI can help with that, obviously. Um, I would say that, at Software we use Slack as our primary tool, and like we don't really email at all, which is I've loved. I've really enjoyed that. My first org where we don't kind of use email in that way. And I do find it's just so much more efficient to have just real-time chats like that. So I think there's value there. We'll see.
Feel that you're always on when you use Slack?
I'm an always on kind of guy anyways.
Oh.
So it doesn't really matter to me in that sense. But some of my other teammates aren't, and they're, you can see kind of when they're working and when they're not, and you respect that, and that's good.
Yeah.
They respond when they're
thing
back.
like on the development side, the thing I don't like the most about Slack is like messages will get buried. I don't say buried.
It can get
Buried.
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 If you're smart about like your reminders and stuff like that to like come back to it, you can manage it well. But yeah, there was definitely a chance for that. It's easy to miss one little thing, and because it's not like a bookmark, like it's like an email, like you
Yeah.
just don't delete that email because you got to come back to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the Slack channel keeps going.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe this helps to get to that problem too.
Yeah. All right. Why don't we bring on our guest, Anita, talk a lot more about AI, the tools she's exploring, her journey, the AI company that she's working at now. So without any further ado, Anita, welcome to the stage.
Now, a quick break for our sponsor of This Week in NoCode.
If any of you guys are looking to learn more about Bubble, whether you're a beginner or a professional looking to get certifications and take your skills to the next level, you got to check out NoCode Alliance. It's been a personal project of mine for the last 2 to 3 years. I have 5 different courses there, all focusing on Bubble and taking you from 0 to pro. And these courses tell you everything you need to know to start earning 6 figures as a Bubble developer. So go to NoCodeAlliance.org, either get started with the beginner course or take our package and go from 0 to pro in the next 3 to 6 months, and you won't regret it. That's NoCodeAlliance.org. Back to the show. Hello, welcome. Are you in Chicago right now, you said?
Chicago. Yeah. Hi, guys.
Cool. And you're now working at Vellum?
Vellum.
Vellum.
Vellum. Yeah. AI development platform.
Okay. I don't know exactly what it does. Like I read the bio, but I still don't quite get it. Can you tell us more?
Oh, that's great feedback. We should then change it. Yeah, I mean, Vellum is an AI development platform for developers. How it works is we provide the framework for you to build anything that you need to build to support the backend of your AI features. If that is prompt chaining, we have a workflow product where you can just add different nodes next to each other. And those nodes can be anything from a prompt node call, or it can be an API call, similar to how Bubble does it, for example, but it's just like a workflow thingy where you just hook these nodes together to build the backend of your chain prompting structure, right? And then, and that's just like part of it. That's just like for AI development, you would have tools to prototype these features, and then you would have tools to evaluate how these features are actually performing. And that has been a big thing for AI development lately, because if last year everyone was building AI features, today we're all learning that, you need to refine these features. The non-deterministic nature of AI models does not help you when you're used to, just software engineering and building features that are, like you would test them, of course, but then like, how do you set that behavior and what's acceptable in your use case? So evaluation comes second, and then it comes second and it comes third and fourth. And like, it's kind of this like loop of improvements that you actually need to set up. And then Vellum helps you in those 2 processes. It also helps you to deploy these features reliably. So after you deploy, we can also capture all of your users' completions in real time. And then you can use all of those completions to actually bring them back into your eval tables and then refine your AI features even more. Like a whole end-to-end process to support your AI development from prototyping to production grade app.
I didn't know most of that existed or was like a part of the process at
Really?
all. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I feel like if you felt the pain, you know that you need that.
Yeah.
It's like, for example, we're working with like smaller startups who are like AI native startups who like their whole business is AI thing. And then we're working with companies like Redfin and Dreta who are introducing AI features into their platform. And so apart from improving the AI features or how the model behaves, they also need to relate how that feature actually connects with business requirements, with product requirements. Like, for example, Dreta, they care about privacy and security. Like, that's the core of what they do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so building an AI feature and adding it in their platform, the standard is pretty high. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you cannot just push something out there and just hoping that it passes the vibe check and that it's going to work.
And why? So why? We can talk more about AI stuff in a second.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
why does Vellum need to be its own platform versus like working alongside or inside of like a Zapier or Make, or like how does it fit differently in the
How
work?
does it fit? Yeah, that's a great question. So for one, I think it offers more developer friendly options. So it's not really a no-code tool. It's more of a combination of, yes, your product managers can use it to test prompts and to build their prompts without going into the code base, because like that's a big requirement from every
Mhm.
team. Like
Yeah.
if you're coding this, you don't want to ping your developer every time you want to change your prompt. And so like part of Vellum, it's built for that need, for the subject matter experts, for product managers. They go into a prompt sandbox, they compare prompts. They go into the workflow, they create these nodes to validate whether this is actually possible. They're not building for production, but they're testing. It's like prototyping, I'm experimenting, I want to test whether this feature will actually make sense. So I can build a case, go to management, present this and say, well, this will be amazing if we have it in the product. I already used Vellum to test that it actually can be done.
Mm-hmm.
And now the second stage is let's form a group of people where we're going to have our developers and everyone else that will integrate with Vellum to actually take this into production. And so to answer your question, how it relates to Zapier and I don't know, the other tool,
Make.
Make, I think that you mentioned, like, yeah, I think like they're mostly like a connector between services. For us, it's mostly like you can build whatever you want. For example, we're at our offsite right now and we're building agents. It's just like the power that Vellum gives you is like the whole framework to build almost anything and then evaluate it continuously. Like with Zapier and all these other tools, you cannot do the evaluation loop.
Yeah.
You can only connect like OpenAI call with another service.
Yeah.
Nothing
Yeah,
in between.
When you mentioned the prompt editing in the code
Mhm.
base, it reminded me of the same reason why loops exists, right? Like we had loops
True.
on the podcast a
Yeah.
couple weeks ago. Like any email provider is normally, like, we built this app that I'm working on. The developer had built the emails in the code, right? If I wanted to change any of those emails, I'd have to tell him, hey, go change this, whatever.
Exactly.
And now he
Yeah.
just sends an endpoint and, an API, and whatever I want to do with it, I can change everything around those variables, right?
Exactly.
And
Yes.
the same thing makes a ton of sense. Like, I built a small little app, early days of like OpenAI, ChatGPT stuff,
Mhm.
like GPT-2 kind of stuff. I guess 3 probably. I built
Okay.
this like SOQL translator. Like, you ask a prompt plugged into Salesforce, you get a SOQL, which is Salesforce's query language.
Nice.
SQL, you get this thing back. And I just remember in Bubble, in the backend workflows, like typing into this tiny little box what the prompts needed.
Yeah. I know.
Well, what was it before I edited it? Like, I didn't know any of that. I was like, oh,
Yeah, exactly. And
dev
like
experience sucks.
prompt engineering is an art more than it's science. Or it's both. I don't know. At this point, it's like we have a lot of models. And like this week we got more
Even more.
models. Like we
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
two of the best
It
models,
will always
right?
there will keep being more.
Exactly. And then my prediction is that we won't need to learn different prompting strategies for different models. But for now, if you want to use another model, you need to change your prompt. You need to prompt it differently. And
Mhm.
this is because all these new models, for example, when we compare GPT-4 and Claude 3 Opus, you can actually get Claude 3 Opus to do really well on every task if you prompt it well. What I mean by that is that Claude Opus is trained on different techniques, on different methodologies. For example, it expects some XML tags in the prompting, whereas GPT-4 does not. It only requires some indicators to split index and context. And once you realize that, you find out that to switch to another model for, I don't know, what's your goal? Like lowered cost, faster model, whatever that might be. Like you need to learn how to prompt it differently. And like people are just used to that GPT prompting. And that's fine. Like that's, I guess, like 90% of everyone who builds with AI, they might be using OpenAI, but that's going to change. And like everything is going to blend together.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of experimentation goes into it. And so that's why like that prompt environment is needed so that you can test your hypothesis and then see how the model is going to react. And it's not only prompting, it's like parameters,
Yeah.
like you add context, you can build reg apps, you can build
And
whatever.
then getting
Yeah,
feedback back from users. I remember also
that's
building
key.
that uniquely, right? Like,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
or in a bespoke way, right? Like I'd get the
Yep.
response from the prompt, "Hey, I want to, show me how many opportunities I had last
Yeah.
month," and then
Yeah.
it would come back with this SOQL query, and then there was a thumbs up and a thumbs down, right? And
Yeah.
I wanted to keep track of like when was it thumbs up or not thumbs down, really. And if it
Exactly.
was thumbs down, I wanted some feedback, and I needed to then compare, and like it was this like whole in like this process became its own feature, right? Of just collecting
Exactly.
feedback,
And that's why Vellum exists.
and that's why it
Thank
exists.
you.
Okay, great, you sold me, got it, nailed it.
Yay.
That makes sense.
I want to continue with this, but first, Anita, we need to learn a little bit more about you. Like, how did you get
Yeah.
into this space, no code AI? When did it start? And then we'll kind of get back to where we are now with just talking about the AI landscape at
Amazing.
large.
Yeah. Yeah. So actually I have a computer science background, but my goal in life was that, hey, I want to understand how products are built just because I want to sell them better
Mhm.
or promote them or market them better, right? And so like I became very, very interested in like go to market and how can I position a product and how can I understand the audience better. So for example, with Vellum right now, we're working with developers.
Mhm.
Like to sell to developers, you truly, truly need to understand like the pain points that they're facing right now. And
Mhm.
I feel like that's at the cornerstone of everything that I wanted to do. It's like I finished my master's in computer science. My focus, my specialization there was data science. Finished my master's at UCF in Orlando, not my favorite place in the world. But then I started to work with another company, and this was like 2019. And they were building a no code for ML methods and techniques. And like, mind you, 2019, like Gen AI, it was before GPT-2.
Mhm.
We were still working with traditional ML. And so I joined that company because obviously it was like this amazing new industry that I wanted to be part of. And then we were building with no code. And then I got introduced to Webflow. We built our website in Webflow. And then I got introduced to Bubble. I was like, okay, well, I can build apps so much faster with Bubble. At first, Bubble was this very complex tool. I was like,
The
they're
old responsive
abstracting.
editor. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like they're abstracting a lot, but then to be able to figure out intuitively how everything works, you really need to live in that platform. It can give you a lot of power, but you need to spend a lot of time to understand it. And then I had a bit of a conflict at the beginning to learn Bubble because Webflow seemed like very intuitive to me. And then I was working in that company, and that's how I got introduced to no code. And then I started my own company with Marina, who JJ, I think you mentioned, and maybe you guys have worked on some projects before, but she introduced me to Bubble. And then we started to build some products in the space. And we figured out, well, we have this powerful tool in our hands. We should build something. We
Mhm.
should get money. We should get customers. We can build a real business with no code. Like prior to that, I wasn't really kind of sure that no code can give me that power. But once I got to work with Bubble and the things that I saw that Marina was doing, I was like, okay, well, there's something here.
Yeah.
So we built our first tool. We raised some funding. Then we worked through that. And then at the end of
You
that
raised
chapter,
from that one program. What was it? It was
on
so
deck,
hot on
On
deck.
deck.
it was so hot.
It was
Yeah, it
so
was.
hot, man. It was the
Yeah,
Console's
thing
so
for a
hot right
moment.
now.
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
man.
yeah.
It
It
was.
was
It
it
had a
was so
lot of
cool.
promise. It went up and then
I know. I'm gonna refrain from talking about it, but
Okay.
it was a great experience for us because it gave us the finances we needed
yeah,
to test ourselves, to test the products. And with no
yeah,
code, it was really easy to test business ideas. Just
yeah.
like, take this idea, build it, test it with a few customers. And that's how kind of my mindset works, is like, no, keep it lean. Like, get first the customers to try it out in that lean version, like that MVP stage. If it works, if they're ready to pay, then grow it, instead of just building a massive thing and then trying to sell it to them. And so that experience, that like product focused company,
hmm
turned to be like a digital agency at the end, because Marina and I realized, hey, we're good at building this stuff. We started building more AI features. For example, we built VoicePen at the time, and that was like, it's still one of the products that we maintain and people are using it. And we learned about AI, we saw the potential, and we were like, okay, well, people need this. Let's build
What
more
is VoicePen, by
solutions.
the way?
Yeah, VoicePen is a tool that can convert any video or audio file into a blog post. So we use Whisper, it transcribes the file. Then we have a specific workflow in the back and some like vector database, basically splits everything and creates a blog post for you that you can
Very
just
cool.
use.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
And so that converted to, being more and more passionate about the AI space. And I wanted to build more leverage in it. And so I met the founders here, we clicked,
hmm
and now I'm here.
But you also have a newsletter, The Prompt, right?
Oh yeah, true. To be honest, I don't really maintain it that well lately.
hmm
But last year, if you guys remember the AI avatar craze,
hmm
where everyone was creating their
Oh,
avatars,
right.
yeah. When Peter Levels published his
Yeah,
tool
headshots.
and like the
Yeah,
hype
Avatar
started,
AI.
like
Yeah.
yeah, the stable diffusion moment, right?
Yeah.
And so around that time, I started to write my prompt, and how my newsletter, the prompt, and just like everything started from there. And as I actually started that newsletter because I wanted to learn what's
Yeah.
happening,
Yeah.
and then it all developed from there.
Why don't you keep up with it? You were doing a great job. I mean, you hit a lot of
Oh,
subscribers. There was great content. You still putting out a lot of AI content.
I know. It's just time doesn't allow it, but I need to come back to it. So I'm just gonna say it publicly that I'm gonna build an agent to do it for me.
Okay.
Nice.
There you
There
go.
you go.
Right. Yeah,
I'm
the
sure it
newsletter
can. I'm
agent.
sure it can. And so the prompt essentially was just like a weekly roundup of all the AI stuff that was launching kind of thing.
So yes and no. It started being that, but then the space got very crowded. Like everyone was writing this like latest AI news
Yeah.
type of thing. And then because I was going more deep and deep with it, and I was building real products, I wanted to share my learnings. And so, for example, the content that I share right now, it's mostly on LinkedIn, and I write a lot of analysis posts where, for example, this week I published an analysis piece where I compared GPT-4o with GPT-4
hmm
Turbo on different tasks. It's
hmm
just like,
Yeah.
what can we learn from this? Is this model actually better? Is it faster? Yes, it is faster, but what are the things or the tasks that it's actually better at? And then
Mhm.
I spin up like an evaluation table, and then I run the experiments and analyze the data, and then I show the results. And I feel like that's the content that people really need right now, instead of just following the latest news. Like, you can follow whatever newsletter to
hmm
get the latest news, or you
Yeah.
can be just on Twitter. You'll get the news.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I do like that almost tutorial style. Like, I want to learn something. I couldn't, even if I read the article, right?
Yeah,
Like some kind of spin on it. Don't just tell me, here are 4 articles that you could read on your own if you'd like. But
true,
instead,
true.
here are some interesting things about the context of it, or what you can learn from it, or
Yeah,
something to take.
valuable. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Something
that's
to
what
take
can you
even
do
totally.
with
before
this?
diving in.
It's
Yeah,
great, but what can you do with it? How can it help me kind of thing?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
here we are, present day AI now. We're back at it.
Yeah.
We, on our news segment today, talked about obviously ChatGPT 4.0. You kind of just did an analysis on it. And we also talked about Google's release
Mhm.
this week too. Let's talk a little bit about both those things and kind of what you're seeing on your end and then we can eventually make some predictions too of, where is
Yeah.
this going in just short term or even, a year or two from now kind of thing.
Yeah. What do you guys think is gonna happen?
Well, let's not start with the prediction. So we
I'm
were
testing.
generally just saying, like when we saw, at least for me, when I saw GPT 4.0, I immediately thought Her, the movie,
Oh
and then
yeah, of
and like
course.
this is like here, like we're just
I
like
mean,
almost
that was the
there,
intention. So
Yeah, that's what they're aiming for.
which is awesome. So I immediately thought that I was like, wow, this got really good really quick. I didn't think it was gonna get that good that quick, and it did.
mm,
I was telling David that I'm almost desensitized to all of this now because it's happening so much, and it's just
mm,
like it's just coming at you, and it's like I think Sam once did a post of like, hey, when we announce, what is it gonna
GPT.
what was it? It's AGI that it's gonna be like a
mhm,
buzz for like a week, and then everyone's gonna just move on with their
Go,
lives
oh
kind of
yeah,
thing.
go back.
yeah,
to
yeah.
And it's just like I feel like we're kind of there because they just keep making such huge things that is a really big groundbreaking thing, but like it's been happening for a while, and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
so where are you at with this?
I mean, I think that I heard Sam say this on one of his interviews lately. Just like we're working with the worst models right now.
Yeah, this is the worst it's
Like
ever gonna
Yeah.
be, right?
exactly.
It'll never be.
There's
Never
never
It
be.
will
been this
never be
bad,
this bad.
and this
And
bad is blowing our minds. Like,
exactly. It's like it's not what are the predictions that we can make for 5 years from now. It's like what's gonna happen next year. It's
month.
like
Yeah.
I mean, yes, next month, of course. Like we're gonna
Yeah,
see amazing applications. I feel like once they release their multi-model like capabilities,
yeah,
they're saying in the coming weeks. I don't know. We'll see. But that thing is gonna be huge. And like 2 weeks ago, we were having this branding exercise um, at our company, and then we kind of had like this visualization exercise where we kind of envision what will happen in 5 years or in 1 year. And then I envision my parents wearing a pendant on their neck. And my parents they aren't native English speakers. And then they travel the world and that thing transcribes whatever they say. Like that's today. That's not
yeah,
next year.
yeah,
Right.
Like
That
I'm
is
waiting my pendant. It's still not here. The tech doesn't work, but it's here. It's gonna work
yeah,
tomorrow. It's gonna work next week. Um, but yeah, models are definitely getting better. Multimodality, I think it's the thing, and we saw that from the OpenAI's announcement. We saw that from
Google.
Google
Yeah,
I/O's announcement with their newest model. I don't know if you watched that video
it was
where they
with the
crazy.
go
lady
with their
walking
phone.
around.
Yeah,
Exactly, and then
how
she
did it
puts her
remember the
glasses.
glasses?
Right? I don't
Like,
know.
yeah, that's what
Um,
David and I were saying. Like that's what got us the remembering the
yeah.
glasses part. So
To be honest with you, what got me the most is the intonation of what OpenAI showed on their demo. And how it changed
the
the
voices,
speaking, the
yeah, like
voices, and then the emotions
yeah,
in the
and the
voice,
singing,
in the singing.
yeah,
Yes. But then also, what was really fascinating is how do they solve for that response time to be so quick?
right,
Like
right,
latency is almost non-existent.
Yeah.
They talk with this AI person, let's call it like that, and then it responds in real time really fast. It's like as we're talking right now, and you can interrupt the AI
yeah. The
and it will
interruption
stop.
could be a little bit better still, but I'm sure that we'll get there very
But it's
quickly.
massively better from what
Massively,
we're used to.
yeah.
Massively better. And then
The
response
latency
time
is a
again. I was
thing. It's like, how does a thing this big interact that fast? I mean, obviously, huge amounts of
yeah.
compute, but still, wow.
Ex- yeah. Yeah. And to your point, I feel like for the demo, they had a lot of compute power. And of
Yeah,
course, it's gonna be super fast. I don't know if that's gonna be, you know, the same case in reality,
yeah, they
but
were plugged right into that freaking supercomputer
exactly.
right
You
from
just
NVIDIA.
plug it.
They're like, this is an Ethernet? No, this is like the whole plug. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's gonna be the fastest it will
Yeah.
ever be. But I don't know if you guys have tried any open source models or
Heavens.
from any of the providers. So for example, like last week I was testing GPT-4 Turbo when GPT-4 was still slow. Like the newest model, it's like pretty fast.
Yeah.
But I think it had a latency of, I don't know, 0.57 seconds for the first token. And then when we look at the response time, we want to learn about that first token, like how much time did it take to generate that first token. And for GPT-4 Turbo at that time, it was like 0.50 something, let's say 54. And then we care about throughput. And throughput is how many tokens can the model generate per second.
Mm-hmm.
And for GPT-4 Turbo, can you guess that number?
No.
200
just ballpark it.
millisecond. 232.
20 tokens per second.
Per second.
20. Okay.
20. I was testing Llama hosted on Grok, who is this like inference provider. They have like some inference engine, like very, very good. With Llama 370B, which is like the same level as GPT-4 Turbo, it generates 300 tokens per
Wow.
second. You blink and you have the answer.
Yeah.
That's insane.
And so with GPT-4o, we get, I think, around 120 tokens per
Okay.
second, which is, huge
Much
improvement.
faster than 20.
Yeah. But if you can get like an open source to work really well, you don't really pay for it. It's super
Mhm.
fast
Mhm.
and you get the same exact quality. It's a
Yeah.
win-win. It's like this opens up the question of like, okay, how can you fight open source models when they're
But-
this good already?
Yeah.
So let me ask
Yeah.
you, our producer, Harrison, thinks that eventually models are going to be commoditized. So it's like essentially just like just like a phone company, you're going to be paying like $50 a month, whatever, and then you're just going to get this service. And it's going to be all very similar kind of thing. Where are
I
you at
agree.
with that? You think so?
I agree.
He's not
I
in
think
yet?
so.
Okay.
I mean, I think so. They're they're working with the same data, right? So
Well, I think it's going to be form factor. I think it like OpenAI is the Stripe of AI right now, right? It's just
Mhm.
easier to work with their tools,
that's true.
right? And so like there is a value in that, right? Like
There is.
documentation, it's easy to do. Like everyone communicates that way. The prompting
Yeah.
is like standardized. Eventually, there will be tools that make it easier, right, to host things, right? Like you see this with even just storage, like AWS, right?
Yeah.
Like you're going to start seeing over time, and this is going to happen way faster in AI than any other industry we've ever seen. But like
Yeah.
AWS made it easier to host on a public cloud. And now there are tools that are making it easier to pull it off the public cloud and run it yourself. And
Yeah.
this is what we're going to start to see in AI. OpenAI very well could be the winner for public open prompt tools, but
Yeah.
eventually more and more tools will exist to make it easier to do open source.
And then I think we're gonna have a
Yeah.
huge phase on privacy and like this is the private model and like like all this kind of stuff. Like it's got to get there eventually. I mean, they say it's kind of already there, but I mean, when this AI can impersonate you, can talk about you, can understand everything you've ever done, like there's huge things that can come with that, and implications.
Yeah. And I feel like OpenAI is building their product more towards the end user, rather than, I mean, they also provide some great experiences for developers as well. But I feel like everything that they've shipped lately is for the end user, meaning like my mom uses ChatGPT right now.
Mm.
And so I think that there were some news last week that OpenAI is talking with Apple
I think so.
Yeah.
to actually put ChatGPT instead of Siri on iPhones.
Yeah,
so I think
God,
like that's gonna be a
Siri
big
is
win.
so outdated. It's like
That's it.
you can
Adoption
make a
reached.
reminder or a calendar. That's pretty much all she can do these days.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, man.
nothing, not even that.
It's
like
amazing
adoption
because
reached.
Siri used to be
Yeah,
That's it.
the thing. Siri used to be the thing like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and now it's just like it's hard to interact with.
Yeah.
And that's 5 years time without AI really even. So I think in like 2.5 years time, we're probably gonna be saying the same thing about the models now of just like how do we even use that kind of stuff? Because assuming
True.
we're gonna accelerate faster now with even more AI capabilities.
And it's gonna impact a lot more things. Like we can talk about jobs, and how it's gonna impact the labor market. But then I had a conversation just this morning because I do a lot of like SEO research and content and all of those stuff. Like I read a lot about this, but then I also want to kind of hit the right note. And so we have one customer, he has like an AI-powered SEO tool where it analyzes keywords and then it generates blog posts based on those keywords, the intent, or whatever it might be. And then he and I, we talked this morning about like, is AI going to potentially kill SEO? Because essentially, if you have generative search on Google and you actually have it today, like how are people gonna, get SEO jobs right now, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like the conversation, how we ended up that talk was that, and I don't know if you guys are kind of familiar with how SEO works
hmm
and what it takes to actually, do the research and create an article that
Which I
will
used to work
rank.
for the SEO
Oh,
company platform
Yeah.
thing.
you did? That
Yeah.
amazing. Then you'll understand me saying that if now we're searching like give me the best location to buy a TV and it's gonna like show those top results and you're gonna look at the top 3, in the future it will give me the answer generated from a specific article. And I feel like long tail keywords will matter more. SEO is definitely gonna change. The way that we're gonna search the internet is gonna fundamentally change.
Yeah.
But SEO might still continue to exist because if you create content that's useful and valuable, Google will index it. It's not gonna go against its own product
Sure.
to not do it.
People still need
Yeah.
to find things. I think it just could be way more
Yeah.
personalized. So if like I ask it to find me TVs, maybe it thinks I'm cheap and it wants me to find the 3 cheapest TVs and then like show me
Yeah.
the prices and like maybe like that's what it thinks for me. But for David, he's a big spender. He's just going to show him the TV to
Yeah.
spend, and it's going to be very personalized and it's going to be crazy different because of the personalities and what it can
Yeah.
now do in that way.
Well, like Google should have access, like at least Chrome should have access to my history,
Yeah.
right? So it
it
should know
knows
everything
Yeah.
your
I've ever
boss.
looked
It
at
should
and what
know.
I
Yeah.
spent time on, and be able to tailor a search based on what it thinks I might
You don't
even
even
look.
need to tell it. It should just already know
Yeah.
it.
Right,
Easy.
exactly.
The TV is just
The
going to show up
context
at
Easy.
your
of my
house.
query involves my whole history of anything
Easy.
I've ever
Yeah.
searched.
That's your assistant right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you don't need anything else.
Yeah. it's
Yeah.
just-
What is interesting to me today is that, like we talk about models and like models are getting better, of course, but it like building anything with AI, it requires a lot of like work. And I talked about this briefly at the beginning. It's like non-deterministic nature. How do you actually control the behavior? And we're just like scratching the surface on how we can actually build better architectures that we can plug it in our platform and that we can sleep freely that night because we know that it's not going to generate some
Yep.
stupid stuff,
This
right?
You're
is
not gonna get a Google
we were just
response
talking
out of
about
your
this in the news. I
prompt.
was talking about how the first
Uh-huh.
set of tools I built that were using AI in production were kind of underwhelming. Like it didn't work
Yeah.
that great, right? You're like,
Yeah, of
oh, all
course.
this promise. It sounds like it's going to be all this great stuff, but really, it was really hard to get it right. That it's in such a good way that like people can find value on it, and
Yeah.
it wasn't as plug and play as like it seemed like it should be. And so there was like this
Exactly.
off of I'm just not going to do this till it gets better. And now things are getting better, but sounds like still like you still need the same framework, effort, testing, iteration. It's
Yeah.
just faster,
To get
better,
to that point.
but still.
Well, I think we're also just seeing a lot of just AI businesses that are just hitting the OpenAI API and like that's it, really. Like that's the
And that's
extent,
it. Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so I think what Anita's talking about is like, how do we actually make this a more professional thing that real companies can rely on at scale and with consistency and deliver that in a production environment?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we've heard the stories, right? Like we've seen the bad examples, what it can do. Like Air Canada, I think that the chatbot actually kind of imagined a policy and now they need to stick with it.
Yeah, they
It's
wanted
like
to
you need to
corner.
test it. Yeah. What if it's even worse than that? I think that someone bought a car, a Chevy, for $1 because the chatbot said that, yeah, you can buy it. The person bought it. That's it.
Yeah.
And just, we need to avoid those things. And for companies like that, like Air Canada, we cannot allow this to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And we
it's-
saw like
Yeah.
the good examples as well. Like Klarna, I think they say that they saved
Call
around
center.
40, the call center.
Yeah.
They saved like 40 million in just 3 months from
Yeah.
their chatbot, which is
3
not good for the people that worked. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
also
true,
makes me
but-
wonder why they need so much money on a call center. Like, how many issues does that app have?
I don't know.
That many.
Holy smokes, right?
Just fix
Yeah.
the
I No.
Yeah,
Just
math
fix the
already.
bugs. Jeez. I'm sure there's
True.
got to be a reason, but
Yeah, but no, but I mean, many reasons why you might need that. But yeah, I think it's. What do you think? Like, uh, is it reasonable for most companies to build something AI, or is it still do the models still need work, or is it just a framework development problem?
Yeah, I would say that it depends on the use case. For example, I was testing GPT-4o, GPT-4 Turbo on a data extraction task. And I thought that it's gonna be the best model on data extraction task. Like both model, the absolute resolution that we got is that 60-80% they got it right. The rest of them, it didn't. And what we were trying to do is like extract values from a contract. And if you're using those, for example, if you're extracting that data and mapping it as a JSON object, and if you're connecting that JSON object with your app, and then if you're mapping some fields based on that data that you extracted, it needs to work 100% or at least 90%. I don't know, like what's your threshold, right? And this is when I work with our customers, it's mostly like, okay, what are the goals? What do we want to achieve? How much can we fail on this so that we know we can work to
Yeah.
that towards that goal. But yeah, it's mostly experimenting. Depending on the case, you might need to do different things, and people don't realize, like, they write like these huge prompts and they're like, this model is not working, it doesn't listen to my instruction. Like, the other best thing that you can do is just like split that prompt, chain
Right.
it, and the model will follow less instructions per prompt, and it's going to do a better job. Folks still don't know that. Then how do I improve context? Well, use a vector database, embed it, pass context in real time. The answers are going to get better. Well, how do I help my company to not be hijacked like it was the case with Air Canada? Well, you put guardrails at every step of that prompt chain so that it can capture some malicious behavior. If it captures, you can stop. If it does not, then the workflow can continue. And it's all about, molding this into the shape where your company is going to feel confident that it can actually deploy this into production.
Yeah, we had this contract extraction problem. We were trying to solve the problem of CAM reconciliation, which is like if you own a commercial building, your tenants pay all of the expenses based on how much square footage they have in their lease, right? Like a
Yeah.
commercial space, right? Like you have one of the offices in a strip mall, and every CAM clause is negotiated, right? So it's written different in every contract. So it's a pain in the ass for the tenant or the landlord to go through every contract and figure out who owes what for which expenses, blah blah blah.
Right. Yeah.
But extracting all of that information out and getting it into a reliable form every single time without getting the model to go, I don't know, because that's what we always as the default. Like, if you don't know, just say you don't know, right?
Yeah.
And it was, depending on the actual question, the prompt needed to change a little bit, and so it was really tough. It was really hard to get it right.
Yeah. And it's just like you need the right tool for the job. Like, if you're working with structured data, let's say that you have an invoice and you need to extract the data. There are other models that work specifically for that task, like OCR model for structured data, where there's meaning behind the layout, right? Like, if you get GPT-4 to do that task for you, it's still not good. It's like, this would not be my preferred model, but I can use another model. But people still don't realize that. They think that it's only GPT-4 or maybe Gemini, and then the rest of them kind of fall back into like the unknown.
The untested, unreliable, it's not cool category.
Yeah.
So as we wrap this up, I want to come back to the predictions before we wrap this up. 1 year from now, Anita, where do you think we're going to be in the AI landscape?
So I think that we're going to have, and this is currently happening, but it's mostly kind of hype and excitement right now. It is possible, but it's hype and excitement right now. But by end of next year, this year, and then beginning of next year, I think like we're going to have a pretty good agent for different things. So very autonomous agent that can do stuff for you. And it's going to be a reality. Like, we're going to be used to working with them. Should I say them? I don't know. But it's like, it's currently happening. For example, this week, we've been building different agents. You can speed up an agent, how good it is right now compared to how good it can be in a year from now. I think that's going to change a lot. And then we can potentially be building these features like more reliably with these tools that are on the market, with the lessons that we're going to learn, and then how all these models are going to just like hopefully tell us like, here's how the model is trained. We're going to have like more kind of security and privacy and how data is used. And like all those things need to change for companies to truly adopt AI and to build these things, and then to rely on them in the case for agents to actually do their job for them.
So you're saying in a year from now, we might have an Upwork that is fully agents, and you can pay those agents to go and work with you on your behalf or whatever. And it's just like, here is a video editing agent. Here is what, and it's $10 a month, and you get this video, whatever.
Yeah. And I think you can configure them to be, for example, like if I want someone to write a blog post right now for me for a given task, like I need that agent to be me. I need that agent to be a small Anita that can do that in my style. It's like, it's not only about finding the right AI for the job. It's more like cloning yourself so that you know that you can rely on that agent because it follows the parameters that you know that you can follow, and maybe better. Like, it can improve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then training on new tools. Like, how do you use Adobe Premiere to edit this video? How do you use a Photoshop? You know, like get in there and show these tools. So, yeah.
Yeah. And imagine like put that like image and video into that.
Yeah.
It's not just text. Yeah. They're going to get more and more powerful.
David, what do you got?
I can't wait.
Any last note?
I don't know.
I can't wait.
I'm excited to see it. I think, you know, I've said this before about, you know, NoCode. You know, I prefer to label myself as an entrepreneur than a NoCode builder. And agents are just another abstraction from code, right? Like,
that's true.
Even further past it where I'm doing less and less to get the same output. Right now, I'm just changing what I'm doing, right? I'm not QA testing. I'm telling the bot to QA test something, or the agent.
And that's true. And like, when you think about it, like NoCode changed a lot of roles and it opened up new opportunities for everyone. And I feel like AI is going to also change every role. Like maybe we won't have, maybe like product managers are going to be more like developers, and then developers are going to be more like, I don't know, QA, someone who would test an AI system rather than develop it. And then product managers, because of AI, they're going to gain more, I don't know, software engineering skills, and they can be able to set up these agents to work for them. Like roles are going to change for sure.
Yeah, it will be. I think lots of people are scared. I'm excited to see.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. I'm currently building an agent that will do the work that I'm doing. So, you know.
Perfect. That's
perfect.
We'll go,
if you
right?
see her around and she's not quite the same, you might know why, because it might not be her. Otherwise, Anita, thank you for coming on today. It's always a pleasure to catch up with you and talk to you about
really
this.
Enjoyed it.
It's a crazy landscape. I'm sure we'll have you on again in the future to reflect on your predictions. But otherwise, thank you for coming on and spending time with us.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Well, that was a fantastic episode.
Yeah, I'm just so invigorated. I just want to go build some stuff.
You know, I want to build stuff, but I also feel like if I'm going to build something, I feel like it's just going to get swallowed the next day and it's going to be useless. Things are moving so fast that I just feel like I just can't keep up.
Build something that you want. Like, what's the thing that can help your life that if not a single other person heard about it or saw it,
it'd
still be cool. Because
then I got two of those things right now. All right. The first thing is I'm really into my diet at the moment. And so I've seen these great recipes on Instagram, right? I just want to be able to like tag my account, and then automatically that recipe that's like spelled out in like comments and a video and audio and everything is just emailed to me of like the full recipe and all the food that I need to deliver that, and like saved in a library somewhere. So like whenever I want a good recipe, it's just like right there.
Sounds like a build a chip screenshot. Here's a screenshot. Just go send it. Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Okay, what's the second one?
The second one is even easier. I am responding in my browser to 1 million messages a day, right? And I just want a GPT just to help me like like auto respond, and then I review it and send. Like take in the context and just write the reply. Taking the context, and I don't want to
So
do it
like
automatically.
Grammarly in every text box,
Every text
it
box,
just sends you.
and it reads all and then it just based on what I would say, I can review it and do it. I'm so tired of typing everything the whole time. I'm just like,
Interesting.
and so a really easy Chrome extension like that.
Interesting.
Both are easy.
I like that.
You could do both.
I mean, they're both possible.
You could do both possible.
I am interested in like the coolest version of the Chrome thing.
Yeah.
It just tracks it like every time you submit a form, it takes a screenshot of the screen
Okay.
and your input. And so it always knows how you respond to things
Well, you
based on
just
the context.
yeah. I mean, it reads the
So,
context. You respond. It learns. It saves it in a vector database somewhere, and you just keep moving on, kind of thing.
you know,
Yeah. Just
yeah,
auto learns. Yeah.
yeah.
So, anything about you?
What would I build right now? I have been really curious about how to build a video pendant for healthcare. I know it's something a little different. Like you know how they have the pendant, like Friend and Tab and
Yeah.
all that stuff. We talked about some of them.
Yeah.
Mostly audio.
Humane.
I think it would be really cool to like have a video audio like pin, like a little
Yeah.
brooch kind of thing that doctors can wear to collect training data for healthcare outcomes.
Interesting.
So you just collect
And
these
also
stuff,
just to protect themselves of just like, hey, did I say this or did I do that or
malpractice.
malpractice, or you just recommended something that is warning, maybe don't do that, like real
Oh,
time.
it could be cool. It could be interesting stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's a lot of
I'm
use cases.
interested
Yeah.
to see it, like because I think so. The origin of this was I think there's going to be a world someday where I have a little box at my house, which is basically a doctor's office.
Mhm.
Right, I can
Yeah.
show it a cut, see if I need something. I can
Yeah.
take my blood pressure. It's connected to everything. Everything's remote. It can
I
go
like
tell
that
me what's
idea a
going on.
lot, David. You
And
raise the
I
money, I'll
think
do it with you.
And I think, and what crazy, I think like even drawing blood is going to be
Sure.
done
Sure.
remotely, right? And
Well, you might
like,
just have it inserted into you or something like that,
well, I
and it's
don't,
just
all that won't happen. I can tell you,
okay.
it's a huge infection problem if you actually have a permanent pit. They do that. That's a thing that
Well, like a
exists.
diabetes little patch kind of thing. It's doing that.
Those are a little different. Like, those are sealed, but like, so my
Yeah.
dad, I mean, I know this. My dad had one of these like pick lines that he could
Yeah.
always take and give fluids through.
Oh, jeez.
Huge infection problem.
Yeah.
You don't
My
want
dad
that.
has the
But anyway,
diabetes pin, and it does the blood check every day, and it sends them updates.
yeah, that's like a slightly, but
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
but and for everything else, like what Theranos promised, like a
Right.
combination of all of these things plus like you train all of these different doctors, like
Yeah.
in the agent world, from what I understand, and this is
Yeah.
hardly an outro. This is just more stuff that we're talking about. In the agent world, it's like really helpful to train agents to do certain things,
Yeah.
right? Like you don't want one agent doing everything, right?
Sure.
You need the customer service, the sales,
Delegate.
the marketing. They're all
Yeah.
doing different things, right? Just like Anita said, right? You want prompt training, you want agent training as well. And in my thinking, like the doctor, you don't have just like one doctor agent. You have the pediatrician doctor agent. You have the rheumatologist doc. Like you have all of these specialties,
Yeah.
just like you do now, right? Everyone's trained in certain things. And I think like, oh, I need my daughter has I don't have a child needs to go to the doctor. It's a different set of symptoms
Yeah.
and health
I
things
see.
than you could have
I
normally.
could see a life agent, just someone that you wake up, is how you doing today, like a personal companion kind of thing.
Mhm.
Like it's gonna happen, and it's gonna like make so many people feel less lonely. It's gonna do a lot of
Yep.
good things. It could also make a lot of bad things, but I think that's an inevitable thing, and there's gonna be a whole company of like life agents.
Yeah.
Anyways, David, we got to get out of here.
Yeah, let's get
We
outta here.
spent this whole week in NoCode talking about this. All right, so we're gonna see you guys next week. We have a very special CEO coming onto the show.
No
Not
code
gonna say
CEO.
it who it is yet, but I'm gonna tease. We have some CEOs coming onto the show. Otherwise, David, that's it for this week.
We'll see you next week in NoCode.
See you guys.